Hi, everybody. This is Tom Grisak again, and I'm here with Henry Lessner, the mayor of Fairview. Thank you very much for meeting with me again.
It's my pleasure, Tom. I always enjoy visiting with you.
We actually did one of these. Do you remember when it was? I know it was last year.
It was late
Late in the year?
Late December, November, something like that.
Who would have thought back then when we were talking, the changes that we've gone through?
Yes.
You know, for us, it started, the panic really started in about March, and that's usually when our business starts picking up. And March, April, and May were just scary slow for us.
Mm-hmm.
But then in June, it really picked up, and we're catching up real quickly.
My, just a general anecdotal look at what's going around. I was flying yesterday. Flight over to Atlanta and back over 2 days.
Neat.
100% full. Every seat, waiting list.
Wow.
Airports in Atlanta, Dallas look busy to me.
Wow.
Just a general anecdote on traffic. My office is in Allen, and I look right out on 75, and there's a lot more cars going up and down 75 these days.
Yeah, I agree. Every month it gets stronger and stronger. One thing I was going to ask you about, I'm putting together a video I think you'll like a lot, and the video entails how the town of 10,000 people of Fairview, which is approximately 10,000, can afford a beautiful building like this, a fully staffed fire department, a fully staffed police department. And I took some shots of all of the commercial here. Okay. And then, of course, the apartments and everything behind it. But one thing I noticed, and I don't know if this was because of I know it wasn't Sunday, it may have been Monday or Tuesday, but the parking lots are just still so barren there. And I don't know if...
You're talking about the Fairview Town Center?
Yeah, right here. And I don't know if that's indicative of anything. It was the time of day. Have you got any feedback on how they're doing?
Actually, I can give you a couple hot off the press kind of things that are going on. So just anecdotally, I had conversations today with people, other Fairview residents, and they were telling me how many cars are in the parking lots on Saturday at Penny's, Macy's, and Dillard's. Good. And I've actually noticed that. I'm a Penny's guy. They're local, and I spend my money in Penny's if I need to. Right. The other thing is the restaurants that are there now. They're all open and they're surviving. They could probably do better, but they're all still there. And as you say, it looks like things are starting to turn around a little bit. One I watch that I particularly like is the AKA, the Hibachi Grill over there. And I drive by there a lot, and you can see in the windows. And I've noticed the last couple of weeks or so, there's always people there, even until 9 at night. Good.
We're going to have to try that. We haven't been in there.
It's one of I love that stuff. Good. It's really good. Trying to remember the guy's, Jonathan is the owner over there. He's a really good guy. So other things, this is hot off the press. We have, there's a organic farm in Lucas.
Yeah, I'm aware of them.
Okay, and interestingly enough, we had them speak at our Rotary meeting last week, but they have just announced today they are going into the Paula Deen space.
Into the what space?
The Paula Deen space.
Oh, yeah, right across from Gloria's.
Right, so they're going in there. They have lots of little businesses and stuff they do. They're demonstration cooking, and they're going to sell some the products and stuff there. But there's several things. I don't know the whole scope of it, but after talking to Jeff Bedard, I believe is his name, and Jeff really wowed us at our Rotary meeting last week about all the things that he does. Really, really interesting stuff. So that's literally hot off the press.
Right. Well, he's got 3 or 4 big greenhouses over off of Forest Grove.
It's on Forest Grove. I've actually been there. Yeah.
I need to go there. It's all. I think he recycles the water. It's a very healthy food, and he has actually. Not profit. He's prospered with this because he's changed his business model, selling less for understand to restaurants and more directly to the people.
He sells, he has a lot of, I think he used this word that I'm going to say, but exotic kind of greens and stuff like that. The thing that the top chefs kind of would know about that we people who go there and eat might not know about. And so he's kind of changed, as you say, changed his model a little bit. He's moving away from selling to only those guys, going to general consumer.
Right.
And I think this is a good place. Whole
I do
Foods
too.
is just boomed out there. They're doing fabulous.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real demand for that kind of stuff here. I have 2 daughter-in-laws that live up in McKinney, and they will be all over this. They will love coming down.
Yeah.
Organic, healthy stuff.
That fits Fairview so much better than Paula Deen's. I'd never, Paula Deen's is southern cooking, fried, heavy.
Comfort food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's just not Fairview. So I think you'll do real well too.
So another, literally today, happened around noon today. Noah's is what is now Noah's is going to be taken over by another event planning company, Verona's Villa, I believe is the name of it.
Okay, fantastic.
They're out of Frisco, been in business for a long time, and I don't know if they're picking up all of Noah's. I don't think so, but specifically they're going to take on the one in Fairview. Mm-hmm. And that they're supposed to even open as soon as mid-October, if I remember correctly. So
they're special events, weddings. What else? Rent it for company meetings.
Realtors. I know I have several realtor friends who have rented rooms in there. There's 3, one really really big room and 2 small ones. And I've known realtors who go in there and have their teams in there and have, kind of pep talk or lunch or educational kind of things in there. So I think that's another great venue, and I'm glad to see that going back into use in Fairview.
I am too. Well, I just read just actually my phone here a couple of minutes ago, JCPenney's has been bought out. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how that's going to affect the JCPenney's here or not, but...
The one that's here is one of their better performing stores, which is a good thing. Again, I'm aware they were up. Who bought it? Penny's is, they're doing real well in our store.
Right.
The Container Store is another one. Container Stores, their companies have been on the rocks a little bit lately. And again, the one in Fairview is one of their most profitable stores. They're doing a real good job over there.
And my favorite restaurant up here is Gloria's. If you haven't eaten there, it really is. The food quality is so good. Mm-hmm. Service is excellent. The managers are always walking around making sure everybody's taken care of, and we usually go there at least once a week.
Good. Have you been to Cafe Gecko's?
No, right next to it. We walk by it every time to go to. We think we got to try it.
So they, in conjunction with the Fairview Town Center, with Lincoln Properties, they have entertainment there now every Friday and Saturday night. Okay. They're doing fun. Kind of back the way it was last year. There's things during the week for kids that are. They have they're bringing in animals, unusual animals, like they're bringing a kangaroo or something.
Okay.
And they're going to have a deal during the week for kids to go over there and meet the kangaroo and feed the kangaroo and that kind of stuff.
I've got a friend that's actually raises llamas.
Okay.
I'm going to ask him about that.
There you go.
That could be a good fit for him. Well, that's good. I'm glad to see that.
They're doing a real, again, this is attributed to Lincoln Properties. Right. They've made a big commitment over there financially. And, one of the ones is down there at the end, it's not WeWork, but the shared space kind of place that, they spent a bunch of money getting it ready.
Right.
And then the business, with COVID, they kind of stopped. So I'll be anxious to see when that happens here. Again, get people in there during the day, eat at our restaurants and stuff. The other thing that's happening is over there across from the Overture, behind the Boy Scouts.
What is that?
There is a 100,000 square foot office
I had no idea.
under construction.
I saw that the other day. I had no idea that was going on.
And they have foundations in. Most of the parking lot is in. We're talking 7-8 more months before it's ready to go. But it's again. Daytime workers eat in our restaurants.
So that's all spec space. It wasn't built for any tenant.
It is all spec space. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, that's good. I was, I knew that the Billingsley project was going to kick off a lot of that office space. So these guys, I guess they got who's building that?
It's Lincoln Properties doing it themselves. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting to see. This is such a fantastic area because you've got 121 and 75. We're right at the cross section of those. You easy into Plano, Frisco, one stop to DFW airports.
We're in a good spot here.
Yeah, and
we expect to see the Billingsleys.
I was going to
it's
ask
kind of low key right now for a couple of months because again COVID. But we're hearing from them again, and I would expect that we might start seeing them again. As far as moving forward with that, I mean, they're fully committed to stay with what's going on over there. That the deal they got with the Peatfish, the partnership, and we are in communication with them about some of the road projects, Frisco Road, and that kind of stuff. They know exactly what's going on there, and they're just, I think, getting ready to maybe do something.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know anything
fantastic.
specific, but I'm just.
So this will be the Peatfish property is at the southeast corner of 75 and 121.
Correct.
And they actually, the Peatfishes own the property that the Allen Premium Outlet Center is on.
Is that right? Okay.
And I'll tell you a funny story. 35 years ago, I was in commercial. And I remember back then, there was nothing up here. There was a gas station. I think it was a Chevron gas station at 75 and McDermott. And he's on the northwest corner of that. And there was a little brick home in the middle of 100 acres of cotton field.
I actually remember that.
Do you?
Yes.
I mean, the home couldn't have been bigger than this area, right? Tiny home. And the guy I was working with, he was a little hesitant. I said, let's just go up and knock on the door and see who they are. I said, they can't own this property. It's got to be someone multimillionaire. And it was Mr. Peatfish, nicest people in the world. Yep. And he ended up selling that property 3 times, I believe. And that was back in the days of flips. So he'd finance it. They'd put down a big amount of money. He'd sell it. And then it'd come back to him.
Okay.
And then I think it happened 3 times. So, and after the first deal, I was out of it, but that's the rumor I heard.
Interesting. I not heard that.
And then Mrs. Stacy was right across the road. She was in a home set way back off of Stacy Road. And I met her many, many years ago. So
I actually have been to her house.
Have you really?
We did. There was some kind of damage in her house. This is a church deal we did. And there were several people from our church went out there and helped cut trees down and stuff like that. Again, this is 25, 30 years ago.
Right.
But I have actually been at that house, yes.
I fixed her commode, believe it or not.
Good for you.
Well, we kind of knocked on the door and introduced ourselves. And she said, well, I don't want to sell right now, but would you mind taking a look at my commode? So I kind of rigged it up a little bit and got it working for her.
Good for you.
So those are stories I'll never forget.
That's fun.
Yeah, how long have you lived out here, Henry?
Since 1990, April 1990.
So 2000 to
30 years. 30 years.
And
a little
I'm
over
about
30
20
years.
Someday we're going to do one of these and just talk about the memories we have. Because in this video, I actually took a couple of pictures of what the town center looked like when the trucks were out there and they were getting ready to break ground on it. And then what the town hall used to look like right across the street. And people won't believe that this all has happened in 13 years. Yeah. 13 years ago is when it all started booming.
When I first was elected to the council, my first year was over at the old fire station where it is now, that old house that's over there that we're going to tear down. Yes.
Yeah. When the bond was passed, I know there was a lot of, whenever you pass a bond, there's always going to be pros and cons. What would you say the percentage was of people for versus against?
It was 70-30.
Okay.
On that vote, yes.
Okay. Well, I've heard from the 30%. When I put videos out about Fairview, I always hear from people, I want it the way it used to be, and I get it.
Trust me, I get it too.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is many of those people have been in town a very short period of time.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes. And some, not many, but there's one or two that have been here longer than me.
Yeah.
I can think of one in particular. There is a gentleman in town who I've kind of been taking it upon myself to find the person who has lived in Fairview the longest. And I know of a gentleman who has been here since 1964.
Okay.
So I'm telling you this. I'll tell you his name later, but I'm trying to get somebody to interview him. Now,
I'd love to interview him.
So our EDC,
oh gosh, yeah, I'd love to.
Our EDC does podcasts, and I'm trying to get them to go talk to him. The Fairview Estate magazine, with Catherine Ponder and them, I've talked to them about going to interview him. It would just be really interesting to get his. He's lived in the same house since 1964.
Is that right?
Yes.
Amazing. Well, as I watched Fairview develop, and I live in Lucas, I don't live in Fairview, but I just feel like I've just been involved with Fairview so long. I'm very attached to it. And I just have what the city council and the mayor and planning and zoning have done have just been fabulous. What they've done is if you're not familiar with Fairview, all the commercial is basically between Greenville Avenue and 75. It's pushed on the far east side of the town. But once you pass Greenville Avenue, far west side of the town. Once you're going east on Stacy past Greenville, then it all opens up and you can see it's homes on 1 to 2 acre lots. And that makes so much sense to me. You're keeping the commercial out of the areas where the homes are. Yeah,
one of the things I do when I write about things in Fairview or talk about things in Fairview, I always talk about how long ago this was set in place. I'm just the benefit of smart people setting things up the way they are today. But I mean, that split between the east and west side for the commercial side and the residential side, so to speak, I mean, that was done a long time ago, maybe in the 70s.
That was very wise.
And it was very wise to do that because they had to make some decisions about, septic systems and sewer systems and all that kind of stuff. And the decision was made on the east side of town, sewer system or no sewer systems, septic systems. So therefore, you have to have big lots. So therefore, no dense developments, and it ends up looking as nice as it does now.
When I tell people, when they say, septic systems, and I get that, I say, guys, you don't realize that's what makes Fairview so special.
That is exactly right.
Each home has its own really mini water treatment plant.
That's exactly right.
But because of that, the homes have to be on at least 1 acre, and that's what's kept of the development from coming in further. So Fairview doesn't want to extend sewer into the further east portions.
We will never do that. That's a commitment that every town council member and mayor has had. That we stick to that kind of plan where we're moving forward, and that we keep the. It used to be keep a country, and some people make a big deal about that, but I mean it still is.
Still laugh about
it
that.
Still is keep a country because it is large lots. All the lots over there, I'm thinking of what the council's approved recently. Everything is 2 acres.
2 acres now.
There's one area that's going to be 1.5, but the rest of it is 2 acres.
You're talking about Off Country Club and okay, I know.
Whenever all that comes about,
right. And there's there really aren't. I was thinking before I came in, there are probably 4 decent-sized tracts left in Fairview to develop that I can think of right off the bat. If I looked at an area, unless someone puts a conglomeration, but big enough for someone to come in and put 30 or 40 homes, there's probably only 3 or 4 left.
There aren't many. I don't even know that you could, as the individual owners are. Most of them are. I think the largest piece of property is 31 acres.
Okay, you're right. Since they're keeping it at 2 acres, you wouldn't even get 30 homes on one of those.
Yeah, you're going to get 13, maybe something like that, with putting streets and stuff in. So it's there again. We're keeping the less dense kind of areas and stuff over on that side of town, which is what people want.
Yeah, there used to be a sign. Henry knows this very well. I'm still trying to get a picture of that sign. I wish I could find it somewhere. It was called Fairview, Keeping It Country. Yeah. And then that 7-Eleven came in right there at the corner. Yeah. And that was actually the busiest 7-Eleven in the entire country for a while. It really was, yeah. And I know Fairview held their feet to the fire and made sure that building, it is for a 7-Eleven, that's a pretty darn good looking building.
Most of the newer ones, if you watch, most of the new ones kind of look like that.
Do they really?
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah. So Fairview was excited to get that, and then once this kicked off, it's just been, in 13 years to watch this happen, it's just kind of mind-boggling. One restaurant, then another restaurant, and once the faucet was open, everybody came in behind it. Okay, so you said Billingsley, they haven't made any announcement, but do you think that's they're still on track?
Oh, definitely, I think so.
Okay, and then Apple's Crossing, that was kind of a new project for y'all, smaller homes and townhomes.
Right. So if you look at, again, that was set in place a long time ago. That's part of this CPDD, our Central Plan Development District, and it was set that way for a long time ago. Again, the boundary is right at the back end of that, the Dart rail track.
Right.
And so, yeah, I forget the numbers, but yeah, there's townhomes, or equal number of townhomes and single-family homes going in there, smaller single-family homes. And this is something else I've talked about in our EDC podcast I did probably a year or more ago. But, I'm in my third house in Fairview. Mm-hmm. I lived in River Oaks 1, on a little over an acre, big house, that kind of stuff. And, you get to the point your kids leave. Mm-hmm. I joke about this, but it's a fact. My youngest one went to college in 2000. Mm-hmm. So where
did he go to school?
He went to TCU.
Okay.
My older one went to Trinity. So I had Trinity and TCU. My Trinity one's a doctor now. My TCU one now is the pastor of Creekwood United Methodist Church right down the street.
So proud of them.
Very, very much. They've done well. But I talk about the fact that my wife and I used to be in this big old house. My office was downstairs. Her office was upstairs. We'd talk through the intercom or AOL instant messessage. And it was just silly. And
I know. I used to have a little walkie-talkie with my wife at our house too.
So I'm a financial guy, and I'm like, why do we have this big old house? And
especially upstairs when we never walk upstairs.
I probably didn't go upstairs in that house for the last 3 years we lived there. Yeah. So we moved out in 2005 or 6. I forget. I should remember this stuff, but I don't. And we bought a house, a brand new house. We built it over in Sloan Creek. Sloan Creek Estates. Uh-huh. And I'll tell you that, you're moving into a place with sidewalks and sewer systems and neighbors next door to you. And I'll tell you, it is the best place we have ever lived.
Right.
And since we've been there, when we go from big house to really much smaller house, we've had to go to a little bigger house. Mm-hmm. So my wife got mad at me because we only had a 2-car garage, and I wouldn't put my car in the garage. So now we have a 1,200 square foot garage in my house right now over there. But we literally moved around the corner to stay in that neighborhood. Yeah. So I was able to stay in Fairview. The other thing we hear is I've always, people have younger kids. So, you're not going to go buy $1 million house when you're 27 years old, unless somebody's giving you the money.
Right.
But having Apple Crossing, having the apartments and stuff like that, there are kids that are our kids that are able to move and stay close to us and live in Fairview if they want to.
Yeah, what happens a lot of times out here, people get so fond of this area, as their kids grow up and they go away from high school, they still want to stay here. Yeah. And they tend to move into, maybe even Allen and Country Brook or Stacy Estates. So with all the shopping that's come in, that's enticed them to stay here. People used to ask me, well, is this all the shopping going to hurt us or help us? I said, for 8 years, I had to fight that battle. I love Fairview, but where do I do my shopping? Mm-hmm. There's nothing. Where do I go? Where's the grocery store? Where's everything? Now that this has come in, it's really the best of two worlds. Mm-hmm. You can live on it's still affordable, in my opinion, compared to a lot of places out there, but you can still live on a couple of acres of land in an affordable home. Mm-hmm. But you've got all these conveniences, but you don't have all the traffic. Yeah. The traffic stays on the east or west side of Greenville Avenue.
And that's a big deal, like with the Billingsley development. One of the things we've talked to them about is trying to keep traffic off of Highway 5 over here. We want your focus for the traffic to be towards 75. Right. So one of the things that they're going to do is there's only one exit out of their development onto Highway 5.
Oh, wow.
It's about where where the Korean Methodist Church is. It's right in there, assuming they keep what I've seen. But then you got Frisco Road going north, get on 121, and then they're going to have 3 or 4 exits out onto the access road to 75. Okay. And again, the whole purpose is to keep traffic away from the core part of Fairview.
Now, when is the road coming through? You kind of can't remember what you called it.
Fairview Parkway.
Yeah, when is that going to be?
We need something to trigger that, and so right now I can't give you a date. I don't know a date. Billingsley's will probably help trigger that.
Okay, I would think.
And how that happens, who pays for what, and all that kind of stuff. The county's part of that. The TIF will be part of that. We'll see where that goes. We don't have a definitive schedule other than the whole point about Fairview Parkway. There's all that undeveloped land over there, but people tend to think that Fairview Parkway is being built for the Billingsleys. Well, one, we didn't know about the Billingsleys 15 years ago when we talked about this. But the big deal about Fairview Parkway, again, trying to keep traffic away from the main part of the town. And if you look at Greenville, Highway 5 over here, there's a bunch of neighborhoods off of that. Mm-hmm. So we got kind of 2 lanes with a suicide lane on part of that. TxDOT is probably going to come in one of these days and make it 4 lanes. But from a traffic perspective, TxDOT would want to make that a 6-lane road. You know, if you think coming out of Allen, it's 6 lanes, and now, you know, it used to be you go into 1 lane going up there, and now you've got 2 lanes. One's a merge. It's a mess. But so what we're trying to do is we have it sized where if you have 4 lanes on Highway 5, you got 4 lanes on Fairview Parkway. We don't need any more street. So that keeps, and the way the intersection at Stacy and Highway 5 and all that works, it'll make it where traffic would normally naturally flow up through Fairview Parkway as opposed to going on Greenville. Fairview Parkway is the quickest way to the medical center. It'll be the quickest way to 121. So, you know, again, the benefit of things that were thought about not, you know, last year, but 10 years ago about how that's dealt with, and to try to keep the traffic away from the core areas of Fairview.
Okay, I want to ask you this, and if this is can't be answered, that's fine. But I'd heard that the town of Fairview receives a guarantee of a minimum of $1 million a year minimum from Fairview Town Center.
That is correct.
Okay, all right.
There's an agreement. It's an economic development agreement called a 380 agreement. If you go on the State of Texas website, you can read. There's all sorts of different ways to do this. And 380 is like saying 401k. It's just it's what it's called. But yeah, the town entered into a 380 agreement with Herring back in the day. And the deal is that the town of Fairview, well, why do we have it in the first place? The Herring spent like $42 million putting in basic infrastructure that the town normally would be responsible for doing. So they put in all this infrastructure and expected to kind of get some money back for that. And this is what this 380 agreement does. So out of the 380 agreement, the sales tax and property tax that are generated from what is now the Fairview Town Center, the property tax all comes to the town. Okay. What sales tax comes to us is what brings us up to $1 million. So we get $1 million out of that regardless. I mean, if they go bankrupt, we get $1 million out of it. That's the legal deal, and that's not going to happen. But we get $1 million out of that. So, and I think we have 13 more years on that agreement. Then after that, then all the sales tax comes to us. But the whole purpose of that is they spent $42 million doing things that we as a little bitty town at that time, think about this is 2005, 2004. I mean, our budget was probably $2 million. They built Stacy Rd for us. They built Fairview Parkway. They put in all the streets over there in Fairview Town Center. They built the sewer system, all that stuff, the lighting. They did all that, and they $42 million. So they're getting paid back a little bit.
Didn't I'd heard that Lincoln paid $50 million for it? Does that sound about right?
$50 million I don't know what they paid. I know that they have committed to spend an additional $50 million.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's an additional $50 million in there. So, you know, they've gone down there. If you go down towards the Dillard side, they opened up, they took out some of the retail space. They've opened up. There's another way to get in and out of there.
I'm going to ask you about that. Do you think that that's helped at all? I don't see how that's, you know, if they provided a way to get there from Stacy, I could see it, but you still have to kind of meander to get to that opening. I'm not sure what that does.
Well, it does. What it does is give another way to get in and out of that area is one thing, but it also maybe gives a little bit visibility there. You know, the design of that was done by people who supposedly know what they're doing. If you look at other places around, you know, they have core areas surrounded by stores or surrounded by apartments. Things have not developed over there as quickly as the Herrings had hoped. You know, back there, you know, it was a big deal a couple of years ago when they built the second hotel back there. That, you know, where the volleyball courts were. Well, where the volleyball courts were and where the garden was, Herring had 2 10-story buildings planned back there. And parking and, you know, again, people to populate that area and stuff. So that fell apart, obviously, because right after they opened what was the Fairview Town Center, or whatever, what Herring called it, but whatever they called that at the time. That's
Village of Fairview.
Village of Fairview. I forget. Yeah, Village of Allen, Village of Fairview. That was open like in 2006 or 7, and right after that we had the world fell off kind of like it has recently. We had another big recession there for 2 years, so their plans went away. But you know, since then when the Herrings brought in the hotel, the town helped with that too, by the way. And now where the garden is, you know, there's some talk about some things going to happen there, and maybe another hotel coming there one of these days. I'm getting ahead of myself on saying that, but I think that's what's going to happen.
If you're not familiar with the Fairview Town Center, it's the big box stores are in front, like JCPenney's, Macy's,
and Dillard's.
Yeah, Dillard's, and it hides those smaller boutique stores in back. And there are some really neat stores back there, but they just don't have the traffic.
Yeah.
But I remember when they opened up, it was I can't remember what it was leased up, but it was a neat place to walk through. It was in the fall, and somewhere they were piping in the sound
music. They used to do wine walks. Yeah, all that stuff back there.
I remember the bells, like or something like that. It was a neat. I thought, God, this is really going to take off, but people just don't know it's back there.
So part of the issue with that, and I probably not very many people know this, but Lincoln owns the development, but Penny's, Dillard's, and Macy's own their property,
right?
And they own the parking lots. So one of the things that people see, they look at Allen and they say, well, look, there's nothing going on in Fairview. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you see when you see Allen? You have McDonald's and Whataburger and all the fast food stuff over there, which is lots of business going on over there. And they see, well, there's all this activity over there. Well, one of the part of the deal was with these large corporations is nothing can be put in their parking lots. Mm-hmm. So therefore, those parking lots, nothing's going to be there. So the issue is with signage and stuff like that, and that's what Lincoln has really tried to do. They've come in, and the town has been working with them to, with sign ordinances and stuff, to give them, to change the rules, so to speak, that we set, so there's better signage out there. And I frankly thought they've done a really good job. Yeah. As far as letting people know what's back there.
But all that big parking space in front they can't do anything with, that's a shame.
It is.
Because that's prime retail space. Yep. That could draw more people in.
I agree.
And when you see the video, it's just, it's amazing how much parking is there.
There's a lot.
And again, this was on a weekday, midday. It wasn't on a weekend, so I don't know what it looks like on a weekend. But
you need to go look on a Saturday afternoon. It's a lot better than it used to be, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, COVID has hit everybody hard. And I guess you've seen when I noticed when the door's locked now. You can't come into the town hall.
That's correct.
And then how long has that been going on?
So we the town council voted. This goes back to early in March or late in March actually. So they gave me as the mayor some emergency powers that I'm allowed to make some decisions. Mm-hmm. Without having to go to a council meeting and ask the council's permission to do things. And the reason for that was, as the pandemic played out, as things came from the state or that, they gave me the opportunity to just make a decision and do things. So one of the first decisions we made was to close town hall. Mm-hmm. And the reason we did that is because if you walked around here, there's not a lot of staff. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody has an office. We are single-threaded just about in every area of expertise or function and service that we have here. If we lose somebody God forbid they're gone for a long time, we don't have anybody to do that work. Mm-hmm. So one of the things was to protect our employees, and that was the reason that we did that. We also did early on, I went and we closed the playgrounds and the basketball courts and
didn't realize that.
I worked with Lincoln Properties. They closed their basketball courts and tennis courts and stuff like that they have. Now we've since reopened them. We opened them probably 2 months ago, I guess it was. And anyway, so we've made a couple decisions like that. Getting money from the CARES Act. We had to make some quick decisions associated with it. I had to sign some stuff, and we did it literally within 2 hours to make sure that we were able to get that money. And we got, I think, $161,000 that we used. And we bought a new ambulance for that. So our fire department, police department with the PPE and the different things that they have to do, every time they go out with one of our ambulances, it takes, 5 hours or something like that before they can use that one again.
Why is that?
Because they have to
sanitize it?
Disinfect it. Yeah, and there's a whole protocol they go through to do that.
So how many do you have? How many?
We now have 3.
Okay.
Yeah, and so one over there, one over here, and one that's just kind of a spare.
And you answer calls. I know you've answered calls in Lucas too. What's the agreement? Is it just kind of a gentleman's agreement?
Yes, it's called mutual aid, and it's with our police, fire, and EMS, and it's basically whoever's closest goes.
Okay.
And one of the interesting thing is, as you watch this, you look at we get a report every council meeting from our fire department, from our police department, and look at how balanced it is. Mm-hmm. So we go help Alan helps us. We go help Lucas helps us.
That's great.
So yeah, it's one of those things. It's kind of the that group of people that are first responders, they're so close, then, they want to take care of each other and make sure things are done well.
Right.
Plus the fact that, if somebody needs help, they want to get there and be the first one there.
Right.
So yeah, it's called mutual aid.
Okay.
And nobody pays. It's, we do it for them, they do it for us.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You used to have which I thought was pretty cool too, a horse patrol. What happened to that?
Well, that was Granver, our police chief, and I don't even know if he still has some horses over there at his place off Meandering Way, but I don't know if they do it anymore or not. Yeah. I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm like you. I liked it. We had it kind of at a special occasion. I need to ask Granver about that. What happened to that?
I thought it had a nice look.
It was cool.
I've got a picture of him with his riding boots on, and I just thought, it kind of molds the country with what Fairview is.
There is at one point, and again, this goes back probably 8 or 9, 10 years ago, right out here in the front where the fountains and stuff are. At one point, there was a proposal to put a barn and stockyard basically over there to keep the horses. But the councils at that time decided that probably wasn't the best use for that land.
It may not be, but I think that the town people would love it. I think they'd love it.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to ask Granver about that. I think it'd be a really good thing. There's, again, I don't even know if they do it anymore. I know there's a Sheriff Skinner has a mounted patrol that he has done some things. But where we have ceremony things, we're doing some stuff down here with the Veteran Center. If you notice, there's flags down there. And, we used to do a Veterans Day kind of celebration. I'd like to see some of that kind of stuff be brought back. Yeah. We still do the Christmas type thing, and it's gotten a little bigger every year, and maybe we could work that into that somehow.
The average price, when I was speaking with Darian, the former mayor, he told me the average price or the median price in Fairview out of the ground was $1 million.
Okay.
But of course, that doesn't include Apples Crossing. Yeah. So, do you keep statistics on that with the median?
We have the only thing we have that I'm aware of is the county records.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it would be more anecdotal as to what it looks like. But the county records, I think we're at $553 or something as the average price, which again includes Apple property, includes my neighborhood.
Right. But I see what you're saying. Well, that's just, it's amazing. $1 million.
Yeah, but you go over there, every one of those will be $1.2 million, $1.3 million, $1.5 million and up.
Yeah.
Harper's Landing, we have some new houses.
Yes.
There's at least 2.
Up to 3 million plus.
Well, there's one there that's 10,500 square feet, and of course in Kingdom Estates, there's one 17,500 square feet. There's some really large homes being built right now. So, and the good news for that is, we haven't talked about this, but when you look at budgeting kind of stuff, when you look at, the tax base that we set our 2020 and 21 budget fiscal year on is what it is in January of this year. So our tax base, existing tax base actually went down, 0.47%, not much, but a little bit. But overall, our tax base went up because we had $53 million of new construction added to the tax rolls this past year.
What's your budget this year total?
We're at $9.6 million, I think is what it is. We're literally what we were last year, and we're keeping the same tax rate, 0.341. It's real interesting that there's I don't know what they call it, truth in taxation or something the legislature came up with a year or so ago. And they come up with these, it makes it sound easy, but much more complicated ways of calculating what tax rates are.
Exactly.
So the cool thing about Fairview is when we go through and calculate these 4 different ways, the current tax rate is lower than any of them. So we're keeping where we are.
Right.
And the interesting thing from that perspective is most people's property value, somewhere around, most of it haven't changed very much. So I'm hoping that property taxes for, the actual amount people pay hasn't gone up very much this year.
Well, speaking of that, a lot of people think that there are 2 school districts in Fairview. One's McKinney ISD, one's Lovejoy, because this is on the east or west of Greenville. Actually, meandering.
Meandering Way is kind of the dividing line. Yeah,
this is the school taxes here go to McKinney ISD.
Correct.
So, I wish they had a school that was closer. That's the only downside.
Well, I'll just tell you, I've spent. This goes back to several years before I got on the council. God, 12, 13 years ago. And I personally took that on as kind of I need to do this.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that is I've known the superintendents up at McKinney really well. One of them especially really, really well, J.D. Kennedy. And when J.D. was appointed superintendent up there, I thought that was a good time. Ray Dunlap was here, Sim Israeloff was the mayor, and we made a pitch to try to get a McKinney school in Fairview.
What kind? Elementary, middle school?
We were really focusing on elementary because the kids that go to elementary in McKinney, they go to McGowan, which, by the way, is the #1 rated elementary school in the McKinney School District. It's excellent. The problem is, though, so let me go further with that. So over the years, we've looked at that. I've gotten them to consider, if you know, the far, far east end of Fairview, and then if you go down Winningcoff all the way down through to Lucas Road, and Lucas is in McKinney School District.
Right.
So those kids go to Webb on the other, which is a really
That's a long drive.
And I don't know how many kids there are there. Yeah. So we got numbers from the McKinney Independent School District over years. We've been doing this, and basically we never got close to the total kids that were McKinney ISD students to even getting close to justifying a elementary school. They want what McKinney Independent School District basically says for a elementary school, they want 6 acres. They would like for it to be donated. They want at least 300 kids to start a school. And we don't even have 300 total for all grades.
Right.
So about a couple of years ago, I just stopped talking about it. I mean, it's not going to happen. We don't have a place for it. And
that's one of the real travesties, I think, of this area. You've got to drive by 1 or 2 Lovejoy schools to get to a McKinney school way up.
If you're from the far, far east side of town, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the other side of that is, I'll tell you that in my neighborhood, the young kids go to McGowan, they go to Fabian, they go to McKinney High School. They love it. They absolutely love it. So, everybody looks at, and again, my kids went to Lovejoy.
Lovejoy gets all the buzz.
They get all the buzz, and deservedly so. I'm a big fan of them. I support them financially. I've been on committees with them. Whatever I can do to help them, because they support the tax base over there too, by the way. But they do just a fabulous, fabulous job. But anywhere in Collin County, if you're in Plano, if you're in Frisco, if you're in McKinney, you're going to have excellent schools anywhere you go. It's just they've done a different job of marketing, and they're smaller than the other ones, frankly. Right. But not to take anything away from anybody, all the schools around here are really, really good. The unfortunate thing is on the west side of Fairview, if you've got elementary, or older kids, you got to drive a little bit. Yeah. But I also think about if you lived in Tranquility Farms, or if you lived in Fairview Meadows, or even in McKinney, Serenity is it, and you had to go to Willow Springs. I just can't imagine what that's like, making that commute down Country Club Road every morning because of the traffic. It's horrendous.
I haven't been down there in the morning in a long time. I haven't seen it.
It is horrendous.
Is it really?
Yes.
Because of the schools, or people?
Because of the schools, and also because there's just a lot more traffic over there.
Okay.
So one of the things, and this, I'm switching gears here a little bit just to give you some information if you don't know this, but there was the county did a bond issue a number of years ago, and part of the bond issue was they were going to put money into expand roads. It was roads, basically. And they asked for the towns and cities in Collin County to submit their ideas, their needs and stuff. So that was done. That was in 2019. They asked for submissions. 2020, they awarded. So they had 20 projects that were submitted. We submitted Frisco Road, is what we did. To move, Frisco Road has to move south to make a 90-degree there with 1378.
Behind the hospital?
Behind the hospital. It needs to move south.
Right.
So they funded the top 4. We missed out. We were number 5.
Oh.
So, we're getting another shot at this next year.
Does that move you up to number 1 next time around?
We're trying to get them to commit to that. We'll see. But we have another way of dealing with this. So, but the number 1 project was Lucas Road. Bethany extended all the way out to Branch. That's going to be a 4 to 6 lane road.
Well, if you're not familiar with that, Bethany turns into, after it crosses Country Club, about
Angel Parkway.
I'm sorry, Angel Parkway.
Yeah.
there's a real, you talk about a nightmare in late afternoons, right there at the Lucas food store where you can buy bait sandwiches.
Mm-hmm.
They're considering putting in a traffic circle there.
Yeah.
But that's been a real problem right there. And they're going to have to do something about that.
So what they're doing is they've got the funding. It's $20 million, I think, if I remember correctly. And they're going to extend 4 lanes all the way through. They're going to build 4 lanes, and they're getting right away for 6.
I knew nothing about that.
So it's a done deal. And so they're going to have what looks like Stacy Rd running through the middle of their town.
Wow.
And then going south from that intersection, going into 1378, going into Wally, if you get down to Wally, guess what? It's like Allen coming into us. Right. It's 6 lanes.
Right.
All this stuff is happening because there are, I talked about in Fairview, trying to keep traffic away around the corners and stuff of it. But there are a lot of people that are coming. If you go to south of Princeton, in that area over there, north of Branch, the peninsula and Lake Levon that comes out, there's supposedly 20,000 homes under construction over there. And there's going to, that's a start. And the county looks at that, North Texas Council of Governments looks at that, and they say, well, we need to get those people to work. And where do they work? They work in Frisco, they work in West Plano, they work down in Richardson, they work in, somewhere. So how do they get there from that area? They either go through Lucas, they go through Fairview. So, and probably more of them go through Lucas than they do Fairview right now. If you come, the shortest way is that way. So therefore, that's why that project was so important to do that. Fairview is going to feel some of that as well one of these days. A long time ago, there's been with Stacy Road on the East Stacy, as we call it, going from 1378 out to Orr Road. At one point it was McKinney and the county's plan to make that part of the big loop around McKinney. Right. And so far the town has been able to not allow that to happen.
Yeah. I had heard that Heritage Ranch was a kind of a blocking.
And that was the airport. They were part of the airport.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were there to block the airport.
So when that happened, the town, Heritage Ranch came in. The town owns 83 acres just north of there, just on the south end of the runway. And then we own the Fairview Soccer Center, 75 acres. There's another little property we own up there. And all that was done 15 or more years ago as a defensive move, trying to have some say over what happens with McKinney Airport. Right. So one of the things that will come into play here is as those 20,000 homes that are being built south of Princeton, some of those people are going to come through 546, I think it is, that go through there. Right. And that one that goes around the runway. Right. So the county, McKinney, has been looking at with this big 380 project that they're doing. They want to make 380 a freeway. So one of the things they want to do is connect. How do you connect that freeway with the 2 freeways, 121 and 75? Right. So the big issue has been that that TxDOT has been wanting to come down the west side of the airport, which goes right through the Encore Wire property that's there. McKinney wants them to go on the east side of the airport, where McKinney, there's no road, and McKinney at one point would like to have some sort of a terminal or something there, and then bring that up and around the runway. So the latest on that is that TxDOT is sticking to their guns, and we're not so thrilled about that, by the way, if they go on the east side, because it generates more traffic potentially coming our way. But so far they're sticking to their guns, staying on the west side, because it's a lot less expensive. The other thing that plays into this, though, from our perspective, is that the runway, they need to extend the runway 1,500 feet. And they need to do that because they have 2 large companies, I won't say their names, but they own big Gulfstream jets out there, and they can't leave with full load of passengers and full load of fuel. So they need another 1,500 feet tacked onto the runway so they can fly all the way to Japan or China without stopping in Alaska for fuel. And so one of the things we've been talking to McKinney about, and it's road related, is their plan was to build it south. So you go south, you're getting really, really close to us.
Exactly.
And especially small planes and stuff like that. The big planes tend to leave. They take off, they make a little bit of noise, and they leave quickly. It's the small ones who do the touch and goes.
Right.
So we've been really pushing hard is to have them put most of that 1,500 feet north.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
So when you think about it, if you're a small plane, if you're 15, and you're not, what they've kind of agreed to do, none of this is firm. But if you go 1,000 feet north, 500 feet south, if you start a small plane, a single engine plane, within 1,000 feet, it's up in the air.
Right.
And when they're doing their touch and goes, they hardly ever leave airport property up there. So which keeps them away from Heritage Ranch and Red Oak,
Montecito Estates,
all those places. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the things we always kind of keep our eyes and ears open to see what's going on.
I was wondering if years ago it was that was the big story. The lawsuits, I'd heard lawsuits were flying between Fairview and McKinney as far as the airport. I don't know if there ever were, but that seems to have settled down. I really never hear about that anymore.
Part of it, I think, has been that there were some really interesting things going on. Fairview challenged the incorporation, how McKinney was incorporated as a town or city. They challenged how we were incorporated as a town. And I mean, there's some, if either of us have lost, I don't know what the consequences. We might have owned McKinney at the time or something silly like that. But I don't know the details. I wasn't part of it. I just aware that it was going on. But we haven't had any suits against the airport proper.
Yeah.
And
it's a non-issue now, basically.
Well,
every
it's
once in
still
a while,
out there. Basically, what's happened is, I think, from Sim, Darian, myself, there's been, and Julie's involved. She knows the town manager up there really well. We try to stay in touch with what's going on. They certainly know what we're thinking about, what we're concerned about, and we just try to sensitize them to what our residents are concerned about.
Yeah.
And, are we going to get everything we want? No.
Right.
But can we keep some of that traffic away? Can we push it further north? That's my real objective, is to get the little bitty planes away from us.
Because I don't know of any housing north of that airport in McKinney.
It's 1378, and that's going to be a freeway. It's the north boundary up there.
Oh, okay.
And then you go north of that, you're into, I think it's New Hope,
okay,
which is a town not nearly as affluent as Fairview, but it's people own smaller homes but large pieces of property.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not happy that they're going to get pushed around a little bit because this extension from 380 tying into 121 and 75 coming right now on the west side of the airport as it goes there extends north. Mm-hmm. It goes through their property, and it goes all the way north up almost goes to Melissa. If you drive up 75, there's the floodplain up there, the Trinity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes out there. It's where it comes out.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look at that on Google Maps and see.
Yeah.
You started off. Did you go through P&Z and City Council? Were you on either one of those?
I was on the technology committee.
Okay.
One of the things we did, John Adler, myself, Ron Clary was the EDC guy at the time, and we kind of worked that through Ron, and we worked with AT&T. We were out visiting various companies at the time. And the objective was to get some sort of internet service here. Mm-hmm. And so the AT&T brought DSL as a result of our efforts. And again, this is not recent. Mm-hmm. Right now, if somebody had to ask me what is the number one problem we have in Fairview and your town, Lucas, is internet access. And with the kids, it's been really, really difficult.
Especially now.
People at home, and we have a real problem. I'll name them, Suddenlink. Mm-hmm. We've met with them. The council's met with them. They've made some changes in their network, and are making more changes. But the reliability of their service is an issue, and so that is my next. Yeah,
quest
to try to fix that.
Lucas is going to have a bond vote in November.
Yep. Well, they're looking to basically get into the internet providing service. Okay. They're going to build out fiber all over town, and then they're going to operate it. Okay. And that's one of the ways. I'll tell you that we looked at this back when I was on telecom. The technology committee are doing it ourselves. There's a couple places in the United States back when it had done this, and now there's a couple in Texas that have done this. Mount Bellevue being one.
Yeah, exactly.
Dayton is doing it. Henderson, I think, is doing it. There's several people who they just get frustrated because nobody will. Mm-hmm. And you got to understand why. Is because if you have very low density developments,
not enough rooftops to support.
There's not enough rooftops
unless you charge them more per user.
And so they can make a whole lot more money providing things in Allen or Dallas or something like that. So there's the Lucas way of trying to do things, good for them. I hope they figure out a way to do that.
Yeah,
I don't want our town to get into the business. So what I have done is that we're trying to go out looking at the laws that prevent us from having a private-public partnership. One of the things that we could do is not us being in the telecom business or the internet service business, is maybe we could fund somebody. But you get into then, well, that's back in the old days of monopolies and stuff like that. Well, sometimes when you're dealing with that, I used electric service like that. So we're at your house. You have choices of providers of electricity.
Just Grace and Collin. We can't get anybody else except Grace and Collin.
But they're the local distribution network. But you choose TXU, you choose Green Energy, you choose somebody else, right? Oh, you don't do that?
We're locked into Grace and Collin.
Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, well, so you're teaching me something here. I need to look and see how that works, because that's the analogy I use at my house. We're Encore, and they are a monopoly provider, but we get to choose who provides the power to them. And for me, internet ought to be a public service now.
Yeah,
and as a utility. And whether it's, and we need to pick somebody to do that, and then they can bid, and whatever is on that, you go decide what you want.
Right.
So I'm working with Candy Noble and her staff. They're studying on this. We've been in contact with Angela Paxton and her staff. There's state things that we might need to change, and frankly, when you go, there may be some FCC things that need to change. But you look at Candy's area, her house district, with Fairview, Lucas, Parker, going all the way around, Nevada, Levon, all those little towns over there, that we all have the same problem. We're very low density, and our service is horrible.
Right.
And so Candy has some real incentive to be involved with us to help us.
Yeah.
And they've really taken us by the
Well, in this
horns.
day and age with technology, you just can't operate on slow internet speeds.
That's right.
Because you're falling behind, and you're going to lose good tech people within your community. I've actually almost lost a deal this year because not here, it was in McKinney. The buyer found out they didn't have high-speed internet, and he was going to have to pay $60,000 to bring fiber optic in, which he was willing to do, but he wanted a discount on the home. The seller said, no, that's your problem. But we don't know about how many deals we lose because we don't have that high speed out here. So from my standpoint, I've got to have high, for me, 50 megs down is good. It's great compared to what I used to have. And I get 10 up, but I can live with that because our office is in Allen. But a lot of people can't. Doctors, radiologists, the people that really...
We have a lot of people that work out of their homes here. And then again, when you look at 2 or 3 or 4 kids at home using the internet and doing the virtual learning and stuff like that. So I've had people I've heard stories about it, and I know some people, they literally get so frustrated they will go to Allen and rent a hotel room.
Are you kidding?
I want to tell them to go over here and rent one in Fairview, but because over in the Fairview Town Center it works really well. They have Grande. But they have left and they've gone to Allen and rent a hotel room for the day so they can work. So
it gets old.
So they can do Zoom meetings and stuff like that with people.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I told you my son is the pastor at Creekwood. So they do a thing every year for third graders. He goes up and dresses up as Bible man, and they go have fun and they deliver Bibles to third graders. So he has told me stories of he's gone to kids in Fairview and they open their door and the kids are crying. And this bothers me really bad. I'll get emotional about it, but they're crying because they're worried their internet service is down. They're missing school. They're worried they're going to get in trouble or something like that.
Yeah.
It is totally unacceptable, the quality and reliability we have.
I think every mayor kind of has a legacy they leave behind them. That ought to be your legacy.
That would be a big one if I can fix that.
Yeah, and if anybody can, I think you can.
I don't know. We'll see, but we're going to work on it. It needs to be brought to attention beyond the boundaries of here. Right. It's Austin and Washington, D.C. that need to make some changes, I think.
Well, thank you so much again, Mayor Lessner, and we're going to have another one of these probably in 7 or 8 months, and hopefully the entire landscape will be changed. It's back to business and no more wearing masks. We've got vaccines and we're good with it.
Yeah.
So
thank you very much, Tom. Enjoyed visiting with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.